Food guilt is the terrible feeling that creeps in after you've had an extra slice of pizza or another cookie. It's the little voice in your head telling you that you should have chosen the salad over the burger, or you should have chosen the water instead of the soda. But this voice is actually detrimental and causing you great harm for nothing. So how can you shut it up? So first of all, what is food guilt? So in general, you will feel guilty when you do something that is perceived as wrong, or when you don't do something that is perceived as right. And in a lot of cases, guilt can actually be a positive emotion because it can motivate you to do better and not to repeat your past mistakes. But guilt can also have a negative impact when it is unfounded and leads to remorse without taking any action. And that is the case with food guilt. Diet culture has drilled into our minds that certain foods are good and certain foods are bad, and that you should feel super guilty whenever you have one of these bad foods. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm the first one to say that it's important to eat healthy meals and to have a bunch of healthy foods. But that doesn't mean that you can never have some foods that are deemed as unhealthy and that you should feel guilty every time you have them. Not at all. Food guilt can seem pretty inoffensive, but it can actually spiral into pretty harmful eating behaviors. Often, if you feel guilty about eating a certain food, then you will start restricting your food intake in order to compensate for the bad food that you have just eaten. And this will likely cause you to binge out on foods afterwards because you're going to be restricting foods, you're not going to be getting the nutrients you need, and you're going to be creating emotional frustration around the foods that you're not allowing yourself to have. So it could lead to a binge episode. And if you're interested in learning how to stop binge eating, then you can check out the video I made about that. Another problem with food guilt is that it can lead to all or nothing thinking. And this means that things are either seen as all good or all bad. And once you have done one thing that isn't perfect, for you, there's no point in trying to maintain anything you're doing because there's no point. So let me give you an example so it's more clear. Say you are on a diet and then you decide to have a donut. If you start feeling guilty about having that donut, then you're going to tell yourself, okay, so I had a donut, I just ruined all of the efforts I just made throughout the entire week, so I might as well have 5 more donuts and then ice cream and then whatever comes to your mind, and just have a full-on cheat day. In the all or nothing mentality, all rational thinking is thrown out the window because of course you know that having 15 donuts is worse than having 1 donut, but you just don't care. You just think that things are ruined, that there's no point in continuing. And I also made a video about the all or nothing mentality that you can check out here if you're interested. How can you deal with food guilt? So now that you know what food guilt is and the potentially harmful impacts that it can have, here are some tips to overcome food guilt. First off, you don't have to sweep all of your feelings about food under the rug. You can still look at how foods make you feel, but do so in a more detached manner without associating it with guilt. For instance, say that you just went out to dinner and you had more food than usual, and you realize that your stomach is hurting a little bit and that you shouldn't have eaten this much. You don't need to feel guilty. You just need to acknowledge these feelings and see that you're not feeling the best and tell yourself, okay, well, next time I will eat less so that I don't feel the way I'm feeling now. And the following day, if you're feeling less hungry because you had a lot to eat the previous night, then you can just have lighter meals as long as they're still balanced. Don't go having a juice detox. But you can still have these lighter meals without ever feeling guilty, without associating any negative feeling towards it, and then just get back to your regular eating schedule whenever you feel like it, whenever your body demands it. So I hope you can see the difference here. If you've had a very big meal and you want to eat a little bit less because you aren't as hungry, that's totally fine. But if you want to eat less because you're guilty of the food you have and you're still hungry, but you just deprive yourself from eating because you had all of this food the previous night, then that's not good. So the wrong thing to do in this situation I just mentioned would be to restrict your food intake that following day, the entire day, because you feel terrible and guilty, and then end up on binging on ice cream at night because you're just so nutrient deprived. Another important thing you can do is ditch the diet mentality once and for all. It's really the cause of all of this food guilt, because you wouldn't feel food guilt regarding any foods if you weren't so terrified of gaining weight. And you wouldn't be so terrified of gaining weight if diet culture hadn't drilled that into your mind since birth. If you start allowing yourself to have these guilty foods, then you will start craving them less and less. And so you will have less of a chance of binging out on them and having huge proportions of them. And so your relationship with food will be much better and much healthier. But you can only do that, and you can only get to that point if you're not terrified of gaining like a single ounce. And dieting also leads to fearing foods, which is not good at all. A study actually found that dieters associated unhealthy foods with feelings of guilt and fear much more than people who did not go on diets. While you move away from dieting, you should move towards a more mindful way of eating. Mindful eating is a technique used to regain control over your eating habits, and it's based on mindfulness, which is a form of meditation. Mindful eating means being aware of what you eat and eating in a healthy, balanced way, consciously, in order to rediscover taste, pleasure, flavor, all the things. The goal is to create a connection between your mind and your body. And the goal is also to be able to listen to your internal cues, so your hunger cues and your fullness cues, instead of listening to outside restrictions telling you that you should eat at this hour, for instance. It also means eating slowly, taking the time to chew, maybe putting down your silverware between every bite, and really feeling what you're eating, so rediscovering kind of the texture of your food and stuff like that. And also, eating should be done without any distractions. You should be really focusing on your food and what you are eating. And if you're more interested in learning about mindful eating, then you can check out the video we made about that right here. And finally, enjoying foods that you love that aren't typical health foods is actually part of healthy, balanced eating. Having a pizza night after a long, difficult week, or enjoying some cake at your best friend's birthday party, they should be associated with feelings of celebration, of happiness, not with feelings of guilt. Never. And a study actually found that people who ate chocolate cake and associated it with feelings of celebration had better eating habits and better food control and better relationships with food than people who ate the chocolate cake while associating it to feelings of guilt. You should be able to enjoy yourself during a night out without thinking about all of the bad foods that you are having, for instance. The more guilt-free your choices are, then the less restrictive you will be with your eating, and so the less need you will feel to binge out on these foods, and the less power they will have over you, and the healthier your relationship with food will be. The feelings of guilt you get after eating certain foods that are deemed as unhealthy is actually pretty problematic and can become really harmful in the long run. There's no such thing as a perfect diet, and enjoying hamburgers, pizza, cookies, ice cream, brownies, whatever, is actually a part of balanced eating. Sure, it's best to have mostly healthy, balanced meals with plenty of whole foods and vegetables and fruit and healthy proteins and everything like that, but you should never feel guilty for having pizza or cookies or any of the foods I just mentioned. No matter what you eat, it should always be guilt and shame-free. We need to eat. We cannot live if we do not eat. It's absolutely normal to eat. We need to stop shaming ourselves for wanting food. And on this note, I really encourage you to start ditching the diet mentality and to turn to more mindful and intuitive eating ways. And on that note, I will be starting a little mini series on intuitive eating. I'll be making short videos on different aspects of intuitive eating. So if that's something you're interested in, this can probably help you on your journey. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like it and subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye.